Hey everyone, it's Kai, and it's basically not even been a day since Luard got hit by the restriction hammer, the choice restriction hammer with the main. So in this video, I kind of just want to go through and just talk about how did we get to this point in time where it's not even been 2 weeks since release, and Luard is already they dropped the ban, because this is the fastest emergency ban list we've probably ever seen from Bushiroad, right? So let's do a bit of history. All right, let's start off with a bit of history. So in the V format, right, when it comes to just standard, yeah, there's basically 3 boo-boos. Okay, it's just, this is the third strike, and it's not the good kind of third strike. This is like the third strike in baseball. And I think if you want to say this year how many strikes, they've also had like nearly 3 strikes this year if you include Zazen. But come on, who cares about the premium format, right? Like, no one cares. Zazen, just whatever. But if you think about standard, we've got three bad takes, and it's up to debate which one has been the worst. Maybe Luard has been the worst, but you know, I think there's a lot of factors that contribute to it, and this is my opinion, of course. There are some facts, but a lot of it is just my opinion as well. But yeah, 3 big boo-boos. First one was Melody, second one was Riviere, and this is the third one. Luard is the third one. Now, Melody took a while to get hit. We did have a Melody format for a while. Riviere got hit relatively quickly, but they had kind of an emergency ban list, but because of the virus, yeah, things were a bit blurred, so it got errated. And then lastly, we got Luard, which basically was like not even 2 weeks again, right? So, but what makes Luard the worst out of the lot, right? Because it is the third, you know, you lose confidence in Bushiroad when they release cards like this. And although it's like, yeah, it's like the first one, you kind of forgive them. You go, okay, you know, Melody. I mean, to me, Melody looked pretty bonkers, but you know, you still had to play the game, kind of, I guess. And in that format, don't forget, in the Melody format, Force 2 wasn't out yet until like halfway through. You had at least a month where you could play Dragonic Overlord the Great, which was a viable tier 1 deck before it moved on to Melody. And then after that, you still had like, you know, Grand Blue and things like that could beat the deck, but it still was very, very strong. All right. Then you had Riviere, which I think if you look at it in a nutshell, in a vacuum as well, you'd be like, wow, that deck is bonkers. That deck is easily the best deck. But at that time as well, there were still several viable decks that you could play. You could play Narukami, when that came out. Vanquisher was still very, very good. You had the great Excel 2 decks, like Pale Moon, and what was the other one? Murakumo. They were very, very still decent, although not as good, just because of Riviere's existence, but they were still playable, and we did see other decks perform really well at the WGP standard tournament that they ran. So it definitely wasn't just super Riviere centric, though Riviere was definitely highly tuned for the environment. And then we had Luard, which I think the results basically tell like its own story, where there's nothing viable. So in terms of, I guess if we look at it that way, in terms of viability and just overall enjoyment of the game, Luard is definitely very, very bad. But we also have to take in some other things, right? This new 2020 WGP is the most, like, in terms of what's been going on this year, there hasn't been much. A lot of major tournaments have been cancelled, and they had to implement a kind of a shop qualifier kind of thing, you know, stages, until they get to regionals, where the most recent tournaments are held. And imagine you're hyped. You're hyped for this great, you know, time to like show off your skills, and the only thing that you can do is go first and draw the main. That's not a very good way to enjoy the tournament life in standard, at least. So that's one thing that's really bad. You had people coming out of quarantine, or you know, tournaments are finally live, and bam, gotta tap the mains, right? The other thing is also cost. All right, if we think about the cost for previous decks, basically, I'd say Luard is the most expensive. I think there's like 3 points, by the way. The 3 big points that contribute to Luard's downfall. And nice 3 number. But yeah, this is the second one. The second one is price. So if we think of Melody, right? Melody, sure. Lots of VRs, probably very expensive. Sonatas, Karos. But overall, people cracked a huge quantity of Bermuda because it was tier 1. So if we think about the price of the deck, it was relatively still okay. It was in the early stages of V, so in Japan you'd probably pay like what, maybe $200 for a fully complete deck, maybe even less, just based on the amount of quantity of cards open, right? Probably pay less. So that's okay. The price there was fine. And then the second one, Riviere, I think we bought a Riviere deck while we were in Japan, just for fun. And overall, I think the deck was still under $200, or under like 20k yen, because they just cracked so many packs to open Riviere. Well, and that pack was like, Bermuda pack was relatively, how do you say, like, good EV, right? Good EV. So they crack a lot, and they just have a lot of quantity of it, lots of supply, and it was just good times. But then when we move to Luard, you could crack a lot of Phantom Dragon Aeon, right? Crack a lot, and you still can't build Luard. You still can't build Luard. So because you don't have domains. You don't have domains. Domains is the most expensive thing. It's before the ban list, the day before the restriction, it was still 3,500 yen on a like Macari or something like that. So it was very expensive. So you had to buy these 4 cards that were extremely expensive, and then on top of that, buy a playset of new stuff. So in terms of price for Shadows, it was definitely higher than everything before. And if we think about it this way, you're going to a tournament, you know, it's basically the best players of each shop. So you definitely have to bring your best, because they definitely bring their best as well. And I mean, if the best is just Superior Ride Luard, then yeah, well, you got to fork out your money for that. But the third thing is also, this is a third thing that compounded and made everything immensely worse, is where is the future of the game heading? All right, what if I was to buy Luard right now? How long is it gonna stay relevant? Because we've seen all the previous decks since Silverblade Blaze, and they've been power creeping so hard. Every month, new meta. Every month, new meta, right? So if I was to buy Luard right now, would I be forced to then buy Lambros next set, or whatever the meta deck is in the next set, just because it's actually just stronger than Luard, right? Stronger than Superior Light, right? Like, we don't know. We don't know what's released until like when the set is released, right? So I have to spend so much money to buy this deck, and then next month I might be forced to buy another set, like whatever it is, right? Whatever could be meta next set, and then the set after that I have to buy another one, and then the set after that there's like Bermuda Triangle. That's definitely like super meta, right? Like which Bermuda set has not been super meta? So you're forced to buy that set as well. And then what happens to the future of the game after that, right? They've announced Overdress. What's happening to Standard? Are my cards still going to be relevant? Remember, the premium scene in Japan is not as big as the West, and like the West itself, premium in general is just like not very big. So if I was to every month be forced to buy all these cards, especially if I needed to buy like the main equivalents or whatever, at the end of the year, where are these cards going? Do I just chuck them in the bin because I can't use them when Standard rotates or whatever might happen because they haven't announced anything? This unknowing like feeling on what's going to happen next year is definitely just driving. It just makes you feel awful, right? You could be buying a lot of stuff now and then I can't use them later. Why don't I just go play another TCG instead? Right, you know, Digimon's looking pretty good. Why don't I do that? Japan has so many TCGs you could actually play. It's not like in the West where we have, you know, we got Vanguard, you got Yu-Gi-Oh, you got MTG. It's pretty much it, right? Take your pick. I got White Schwartz, best game. But yeah, no, in Japan we have so much. We've got Zex, we've got Precious Memories. I mean, HoloLive went to Rebirth, right? So you can just play Rebirth. You know, got a sim, right? So there are a lot of other opportunities you could do than spend your time playing Superior Ride Luard. And people just decided, like, I think the day before the list was even announced, I think Seiji tweeted that the prices for some of the Shadow Paladin cards have been going down like immensely because people were just quitting. People were like, I hate playing the game. I'm just gonna quit. Here's all the domains back, etc. Right? So I could definitely see that happening. So in terms of the quickness that they banned, that they hit Domain and Luard, they definitely at least had an idea on what to do, right? They had an idea on what to do, because I mean, in terms of Bushiroad listening to their customers, I think they actually do. They're pretty good at it. When someone complained on Twitter that there weren't enough reprints, bam, we have reprint packs, we've got reprint sets. We have easier ways to get VRs. The price is too much. We need more supply. Bam, supply comes out, right? And in terms of, I guess, just the superior ride Luard problem, they were listening to that. And they did have data to back it up. That made it easier, right? They made it way easier. They even hit George, right? At the same time, they ratted George. So it's not like... They kind of know. Even though maybe their R&D might be a bit like... might be not doing other stuff, I guess. But but at least they're listening to their audience. So... in terms of that, I think it's fine. Now, let's get to the, let's have a quick chat about were the right cards hit. And I heard a lot of people were saying, definitely wasn't the right cards. You know, hitting the main means it was just wrong. You just should just hit Bender. You should might just make a choice restriction between PBD and Luard and stuff. And I personally think, right, I think the reason why they hit in the main is because of the secondary prices. Now, I'm just a person. But if you're forced to pick between Nemain and Luard, it just means that everyone who wants to play Luard doesn't have to buy Nemain anymore. And not having a Nemain actually nerfs that deck quite significantly because you just don't get the extra pluses from Nemain, the extra consistency engine that you get from Nemain. And sure, alright, you can still open your Superior Ride. You can just manually open Superior Ride. But the Soul Blast count, the amount of bricks that you have in your deck, just makes the deck way more inconsistent. A lot of people are just going, you know, doom and gloom. You know, it's just like old Ezel, you know, in premium. You open the nuts and people feel bad. Opening the nuts is just pretty much the thing in Vanguard sometimes right now, especially in standard. But running like a bunch of these inconsistent stuff will really impact your thought process when taking this card to a Japanese tournament. Because Japanese tournaments, you go X0 to make it an X1 during the lottery. And since Shadow Paladin is such a popular clan, you're in the lottery for topping, and that's not a place you want to be. So consistency is a big factor when we talk about the Japanese tournament scene. And going first is still the best lottery. if you watch all the winners, they just go first. But yeah, I think consistency will be a thing. And overall, like, if you can't play Nemain and Luard, you can still play Nemain in the other decks. Like, you know, PBO, Gust, Blaster Dragon, Mordred. So sure, you have those options they can play Nemain in. And overall, like, those decks so far aren't as meta, right? Aren't as meta as Luard are now. So ideally speaking, your Nemain should now go down a bit in price. Now, if you have Nemains because you needed them for the tournament, now you just feel bad. And I feel bad I feel bad for all the tournament players who have to play the Luard meta because this ban list doesn't come into effect until the 23rd of September. Then I feel also bad for the people who bought the Luard decks they needed to compete in these tournaments, because after 23rd, then bam, they have to get rid of them. Well, they have to get rid of them now if they're not competing in the tournament before the 23rd. So there's like literally, it just bad times all the way. But hopefully after the 23rd, it means that people will play Aquaforce. You know, the other thing is also that 23rd is just 2 days before I think the new Lambro set, Aquaforce set, whatever comes out. So that timing is pretty much perfect. But yeah, rip to everyone who has to continue playing Luard format. And yeah, so overall, I do think they hit Luard and Nemain just to hit that Nemain price. Because they did do a reprint of Nemain as well. They did Festival Collection. But I don't think that was enough. Because there's so much demand for it. And now I think demand will just overall go down, but people who still want to play Luard, I guess, have to find a new build. And overall, in terms of the impact to the metagame, now I think Luard just drops from pretty much the toppest deck of the top to probably around hanging out with the tier 1 boys. But now our Protect boys are back, our 5 Tech Protect boys are back, because yeah, they're just chilling. They go, okay, Luard's a bit slower now, we can probably compete. If they Superior Ride, sure, then tough for us. But even at if Luard was able to Superior Ride, if like Grand Blue and Dark Irregulars open nuts or open well, they still had a pretty decent fighting chance. And now I think they just have a pretty good fighting chance. Everything is more equal. And yeah, And with like, I think we just saw Nubatama, and that looks like a pretty strong Protect deck too. So yeah, Protect deck for the win, boys, for the win. So I think that's about it. I think that's about it. We definitely need more testing in the metagame to see what is good. Now that people might want to play the game more now, because there's going to be less Luard. There's going to be less Luard, and I think that's a good thing. That's overall a good thing. And yeah, hopefully the format stays healthy without needing our emergency banlist Ken to come in and have another chat. But overall, I think it's better. Do more testing. It's not just about high rolling. I don't think Superior Ride Luard is the way to go. But of course, I haven't tested yet. I've just made this video. I just had fun making videos yesterday. That's about it. So do your testing, guys. Weekend is coming. Do your testing, and hopefully, if you still like Luard, don't go away, because I still think it's one of the best decks around. So that's it from me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I know this is a bit of a just talking video, but this is just my thoughts about Luard. And yesterday, I think we just had a document talk and a bit of a laugh. So yeah, let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Next video should be the pack opening. I think pack opening was supposed to be today, but stuff got stuck somewhere. So yeah, if you got questions, also put them in the comments and we will be able to answer them, or it's on my Twitter. You can put a tweet there and we will answer some questions there about anything you want. Alright, so yeah, bye!